A new variety of companies called SPACs have become pretty popular in the past few years. In 2021 alone, these companies raised over 100 billion US dollars. But so far, these companies couldn't gain much traction in India. However, a new proposal from the Corporate Affairs Ministry may change this soon. Welcome back to Revolution Read On, a daily podcast where we break down one story from the world of business and finance. Click on the subscribe button to never miss an update from us. Here's your story for today. SPAC isn't another Gen Z slang that you hear these days. It stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Company. And what is this special purpose they serve? They make the otherwise long and compliance heavy IPO process much faster for companies. How? Here are the steps. First, create a company with no business objective other than acquiring another company. Second, find a lot of high risk appetite, golf playing, deep pocketed investors. Third, launch an IPO for this quote unquote shell company. And fourth, acquire a startup of your choice that's within your budget. Yes, an IPO process is required here too. But what these smart investors do is register these companies well in advance. An SPAC need not acquire any company for up to 2 years. Lots of time for the sharks to find their favorite meal. Plus, they don't need to declare the name of the company that they're going to acquire in the future. Basically, they're pooling in money so that someone can find something to invest in. Yep, it's that crazy. Crazy but fast. You see, an SPAC doesn't really have any operations. So the financial statements and the draft prospectus filed can be prepared super quickly, and the due diligence process also doesn't take long. Let's look at the numbers. In 2020, 247 SPACs were created with 80 billion US dollars invested, and just within the first quarter of 2021, 295 were created with 96 billion US dollars invested. What's more, in 2020, SPACs accounted for more than 50% of new publicly listed US companies. So, why has this not taken off in India? Because Indian laws are very much strict. In India, the Companies Act of 2013 states that any company that doesn't begin business operations a year after incorporation could be shut down. Plus, the SEBI Act states that a company needs to have tangible assets of 3 crore rupees 3 years before an IPO and a minimum average consolidated pre tax operating profit of 15 crore rupees in any 3 of the last 5 years of the company's existence. This isn't all. There are tons of other conditions that SEBI requires companies to meet. Even after all this, if investors do dare to form an SPAC, they have to take permission from the National Law Company Tribunal, which could take a lot of time. Result: several Indian startups like Renew Power, Yatra, and others have taken the help of SPACs to list on the US stock exchange. But why is India so strict? Because SPACs are eerily similar to shell companies, which are just created to reduce tax liabilities or for illegal purposes like laundering money. However, India has now realized that these SPACs are much more than that. So, the SEBI and the Ministry of Corporate Affairs are also preparing draft regulations to better regulate this space. But ironically, this turn of events comes just as the US is getting strict with SPACs. Wait, why? Because of the inherent risk involved with such a venture. You see, SPACs have a deadline to finish merging with a particular company or startup. With this deadline looming, managers may not be able to make the most optimum decisions or finish their due diligence and may merge with a company that is not so profitable. Result: investors lose out on money. And these investors aren't just super rich people with a lot of money to burn. No, the super rich dudes are usually the first ones to enter such a deal. But they also often exit first, putting the whole burden on retail investors who'd made the mistake of entering this space. Which is why SPACs will now have to answer questions like who will profit from the IPO process and at what price? Investors can also sue SPACs over misleading projections. Will this move reduce SPAC's popularity? Let us know your thoughts on our Twitter handle readon_in. Thanks for listening in. Make sure to follow this podcast if you aren't already. We'll be back tomorrow.